नमस्कार, आदाब, बहुजन संवाद में आपका स्वागत है। आज मैं बात करूँगा ऑस्ट्रिया की एक पूर्व सांसद से जिनके साथ में 25 वर्ष पहले इंटरनेशनल यूनियन ऑफ सोशलिस्ट यूथ में साथ में मैंने काम किया और वो यूरोपियन पार्लियामेंट के अंदर मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट बनी और उसके बाद में 3 बार वो विधायक रही हैं और वहाँ की जो सोशल डेमोक्रेटिक पार्टी है ऑस्ट्रिया की, उसमें बहुत वो सक्रिय उनकी भूमिका रही है। तो आज हम उनके साथ में बात करेंगे क्योंकि वो अंग्रेजी ही जानती हैं, तो इसलिए हम उनसे अंग्रेजी के अंदर बातचीत करेंगे और मैं आपसे पूरी बातचीत के बाद में जो कुछ उसके हाइलाइट्स हैं वो आपको बताने का काम मैं करूँगा। वेलकम करिन शिले and welcome to India and welcome to our show on Bahujan Samvad. I would like to know something about you, means where you were born and something about your socio-economic condition of your family at that time, and where did you take your primary education or secondary education, and if you have some, remembrances. Means if you remember some friends or some teachers, you just tell us about it. Karin Scheele.
Hello, thank you for the invitation. I am born in Austria, in Baden, which is a district more or less 40 kilometers to the south of Vienna. And I was traveling a lot in my life, but I always stayed in the village I lived since I am born, and the name of the village is Enzesfeld-Linderbrunn. It's a village with around 5,000 inhabitants. So for Indian reality, a very, very tiny village. For Austria, it's a normal village. We have much smaller villages in Austria. I made the primary school. I attended primary school in my home village, in my hometown in Enzesfeld-Linderbrunn. Also the secondary school in the neighboring village. And then for the higher education, I went to Baden, which is the capital of our district in Lower Austria. After having my final exam, I worked for 3 years and then I started to go to university and for economic science at the University of Economy in Vienna. You asked the question if there were friends, if there were teachers that influenced me. For my political consciousness, I had a teacher in my higher school education, and he was the one who gave us a feeling for asking critical, for instance, not only superficial reasons if they gave us for political developments, but also to try to think critical, to go into the depth of a question. This made me to a political person already in my youth. And yes, I come from a political family, from a social democratic family, but I would say that it also needed an influence from outside my family to become a politically interested personality.
So when did you join any organization, and which was that organization, and what are the details of those organization? What are the activities you were involved during your early days?
I started with the Socialist Youth of Lower Austria. And my brother, myself, and some friends of mine, we wanted to do activities for young people in our village. And this was the reason why we founded a group for the Socialist Youth. And it was very interesting for us. We were between 16 and 20 years old. And it was good to have a network with other young persons, with other youngsters in our district, in our region, but also quite quickly internationally. And this was very, very, very interesting. with 18 years, I attended my first IUSY festival where young people from all over the world came together. And my first IUSY festival was in Luxembourg. And this was the reason we started at the local level. We wanted to set activities for the young people in our little village. And
So what were the activities in your village?
Yeah, these were as
The
well.
kind of activities?
These were as well political discussions on. Then it was in the years 82, 83, where we had in Austria a rather strong peace movement, and we were questioning the armament policy of Western and Eastern powers. It was on equality for women, but we also made activities for leisure times. It was dancing activity, disco parties. We showed movies in our public venue of our party, things like that. So we had a good mixture between leisure time, where we brought young people together, and it was not a commercial thing. They didn't have to spend money, and as well political discussion.
So once you finished your studies, then what did you do?
When I finished my studies, I started to work in the social security system of Austria. This means I started to calculate pensions. And I had to realize that this is a quite difficult thing. You have to know many regulations and many laws. But on the other hand, we are very proud for our pension system in Austria. That is important at the human level, at the social level, but also as an economic level, that old people can know which amount of money they have during their life, which is very, very important in Austria. And this was my first work. I did almost for 3 years.
Can you just share something about the pension scheme? Means what kind of pension do people get? A commoner, means is it a universal scheme or it depends on the earning of a person?
It depends on what you contribute, how high your contributions are to the social system, and it also depends on how many years you contribute. And this is, I can come back later, for the equality between men and women, because women normally stay more years at home for education of their kids, and this is what they then miss when it comes that they receive their pension. But the system is one that the generation that is now active at the labor market maintains the generation that is already retired, that is in pension. Until now, we did not, what I consider as a big political mistake, that a part of the financiation of the pension system is on that you make investments in how do you say, in Aktien, in shares, and so on. And I think this is a good system because you know what you get. And as every system, it has its weaknesses, but I'm still proud of the pension system in Austria.
Okay, and afterwards, what did you do after working with this department?
After working in the social security, in this pension social security, I started my studies at the University of Commerce in Vienna, and I worked for a little amount of hours in the office of the Socialist Youth of Lower Austria. And there I did all the things, the layout of the leaflets, prepare the different things. And I could perfectly combine this amount of working hours with my activities as a student.
Okay, and when did you start your proper kind of job once you finished your studies?
After the studies, and with 26, 27, I think, I started working in IUSY, in the International Union of Socialist Youth. a friend of mine, he told me that this youth organization, our Socialist youth organization, was looking for someone who could make the whole bookkeeping, the finances, and who also is able to communicate in English and Spanish. And for me, this was very good luck, because I already was finishing my studies and I was thinking which activity I could do after my university studies. And it was really fitting perfectly into my life to have the possibility to work with people, with comrades from all over the world. It was one of the best jobs I ever had.
So, what was your experience with the UC, and how much time did you work with UC? Means how many years?
I worked 3 years, I think, 3 years with UC, and the experience was excellent. Within this small team of our office in Vienna, I worked with 2 comrades from Argentina. Well, I learned a lot of how difficult the political situation, the political fight is in other countries. Because sometimes, as Austrian, born after the government of Bruno Kreisky, which improved the situation in our country a lot, not only, but especially for women, with education and possibilities at the labor market, you have the feeling it is already difficult to spend your time for your political activities. And then I had to learn that people from Colombia, India, Nepal, Algeria had much more difficult conditions. And some comrades of my party, sometimes they were wondering when I was very cool, but I always had the conditions of my comrades, let's say, in my mind. And then I had the feeling I should not complain just because I have to work longer. I want to reach more. I want to reach the things quicker. When you compare, let's say, the danger that also some of my comrades have to face until nowadays in their countries.
And once this UC, this job or assignment is complete, then how you became member of parliament? Means what was the process?
The process was, from my point of view, a surprise. From the outsiders, maybe it's not so. My work in UC, I guess, was one of the reasons that my party was thinking about me when it came to establish the list for the European elections. And yes, I worked only some months in the international department of my party, of the Social Democratic Party of Austria, when the party leader came and asked me if I would run for the European Parliament. It was a big surprise. And I think that my international work had a strong contribution, that people throw an eye on me, to say it in German words translated to English. Not only my language capacities, that I could speak English, Spanish, and French, but also the work and the experience at international level. And it really helped, I have to say. It helped a lot from the beginning in my work in the European Parliament.
So your UC experience paved the way for to enter into the European Parliament. And so, what was your experience with the European Parliament? These things which you wanted to do, means as a socialist, and what you have done in 5 years of your period as a member of Parliament.
I was almost 10 years in the European Parliament, 2 times elected.
Okay.
The first time in 1999 and the second time in 2004. And what I learned is that things are not so easy like it looks from outside. This I had to learn. It's also not so easy to say, as a progressive person, you have to be in favor of this and that, because sometimes, especially in the environmental field, I wanted to progress much quicker. And then we had talks with representatives of the trade unions, and then I had to realize, oh, for a social democrat, the world is maybe a little bit more complicated. If you want to combine the economic development with the social development and the environmental development, and if someone comes and said, listen, comrade, I like your political demand, but if we do these steps too quick, hundreds, thousands of working places are depending on that, then you're forced, you are obliged to go into depth and to look for a solution and for political results that are a progress and a satisfaction for all of us. So this I learned. I thought from outside it is easier to progress.
So after 10 years of experience in the European Parliament, do you think that the experiment of European Parliament or the integration of Europe is a successful experiment? What you want
From
to say?
the parliamentarian point of view, I think that the European Parliament is a best practice example, because you have much more transparency, like in the national parliaments. You have every committee meeting taking place publicly. Just the committee can decide, for instance, when they negotiate the budget, and they don't want someone to listen what is the strategy for the negotiations, that it is not public. But I think this is real, compared to all other regional and national parliaments, a big advance. And what I found interesting is that you could negotiate and try to get majorities together with members of other political groups. This is a lot of work, but this is from the level of parliamentarism. It is really interesting, and you feel much stronger as a parliamentarian, having this freedom, but also the obligation of moving yourself to get the majority for your political report, for your political demands. I think it is best practice, the European Parliament.
We as Indian socialists, we dream of the world parliament, and this is European Parliament. We have the concept of world citizenship, Vasudev
Yes.
Kutumbakam.
Yes.
So what are the possibilities? Means because in India we are also trying to have a sort of, if European Parliament can be formed or European Union can be formed, then why not your South Asian union of countries like India and the Pakistan and the adjoining countries. So means there are a lot of people who are very much they have this imagination in their ideas, and we are working on this, but we could not move much forward. But what do you think that this kind of European Union experiments give way for the integration of the whole world?
It could be, when the political will is existing. And I remember when the African Union was not that strong like they are nowadays, that play a much stronger role than they did 10 years, 20 years, I do not know, before. But in Europe, it is clear that after the Second World War, there was the conviction, the need, and the political will to not let happen again what happened. And I think this political will started with this European cooperation on steel and on steel, and which created at the same time political political, much more economic dependence, but also as I answered that no war would break out between the member states. And having this as a basis, I think the times when there was more positive vision concerning the European future was used to develop the European Parliament and to develop a legal framework that gives more rights to the European Parliament than it had in the beginning, because at the beginning the European Parliament did not decide on equal level with the member states on consumer protection, on environmental issues, and so on. So I think it was a development, and there were times they were used that we could progress in a better way. I do not know if now with this renaissance of nationalism would be possible in the same way. Although that I think it is necessary if you look at countries like Austria, like Portugal, like the Baltic states, it is important to have this union to try to have a voice at the international level. And many people, for instance, were not satisfied with the outcome with the USA, with the trade, with the tariff system. But if you look at Switzerland, that is not member of the European Union, they did even worse. So, I mean, for me, it is clear that not everything is honey and milk, what is happening at the European level, but I think it is a necessity in ecologic, economic, in many terms, to find a solution that is broader than just their own small country like Austria.
You know, when the European Union was formed, the people had the perception that now the dream of making this world multipolar will happen, but it didn't happen. What was the reason behind it? Because what the people see that European Union works as a sort of proxy to US, or it is strengthening NATO, and it is supporting the American strategic, whatever the positions they take. What do you think about it?
As I'm now already more than 15 years out of the European Parliament, and I'm a member of the regional assembly of the regional parliament, it is, I have to really think quite good how to answer. What I want to say is that the perception always existed until a certain degree that the European Union is not speaking with one voice and so on. My perception was especially when we met with US members of parliament, that I felt my European identity, for instance, in the whole field with the topic of climate change. A big majority, at least at my time when it was at the European Parliament, they realized, they accepted the necessity to work against climate change. We did not see that with the US parliamentarians, colleagues. And I think there is a broad range of topics where it is clear that it was the European Union that put forward the things in the member states and in the whole union. And climate change is one thing, but also even in a socially developed country like Austria, it was the European Union that made regulation, that made laws, for instance, that you have no barriers for people who cannot take the barriers, for handicapped people and so on. And now you can complain about that, but I find it very important in the question of inclusion. And so But these topics you don't discuss, no? We discussed then the Iraq war, where Europe was divided. Nowadays, these are unfortunately other conflicts where Europe is divided and has not a strong voice like it should have. But on the other hand, there are many fields where we progress and where we also need the European Union. One point that is affecting the whole world is if you look at the power that, how do you say, a platform for social media has. It has to be the European Union if you want to reduce their power, if you want to have regulations, which is necessary for the information policy, that not anyone can put every lie via social media. Then you need, let's say, an institution like the European Union to make an impact on companies that act worldwide.
Okay, now coming back to Austria, because now you are a member of assembly there for 15 years. What is your experience as a member of assembly? What kind of policy decisions you can take or you can influence? Like in India, we see that the legislatures have very less powers, and we see that the bureaucrats, they have the influence, or the federal government, the central government has the influence, or the majority party, means with a ruling party, they have the influence. So as a assembly member,
Yeah.
what is your experience of last 15 years?
My experience is a little bit that what you describe now. And this is also the game of democracy, that the majority decides. And this is what I said before was the interesting thing in the European Parliament. You did not have an absolute majority. This means you always had space to negotiate compromises, and no one identified with the own government, which is happening in all the states that I know, that the government has a majority in the parliament. And if there is a proposal from the ministry, then the parliament accepts it with maybe or hopefully small changes. So I can underline what you say. I think this is happening even in very democratic countries. The possibility that I see is that we can use media to put some political demands forward, also social media, and I think this is necessary, have to work together with the civil society. And the civil society can be a broad range of NGOs, of organizations, but also sometimes it's useful to work together with some mayors, or so. I think you have to look quite well how you try to put your topic, your political demand on the political agenda. But yes, you're right. It is the majority that rules the country. I mean, this is also the sense of democracy. But I also think that what we have to defend, if we are somewhere not in majority and in government, that democracy is that the majority decides, but that everyone has the right to question, to criticize. And this is my point that I want to make, that I also heard that in India, this is very difficult. When I arrived 1 week ago in Delhi, I read in newspaper that young people were put into jail because they were making a manifestation for a better air quality in India, which from my point of view is very worrying. And I think every government has other things to do, or every police has other things to do than putting young people into jail who fight for a better future for all of us. So
Yes.
to conclude again, yes, if you're a Democrat, you have to accept what the majority in a parliament decides. But yes, if you're a Democrat, you have to defend the right for critical question, for critique for asking for transparency of decisions. And I will always do that. It's difficult, it's hard work, but I think it's part of a democratic society.
I think we do not have time. Otherwise, I would have asked you that even if you ask questions, whether you are allowed or not, number one, or what kind of answers do you get from the government? Because what we see in India, either you are not allowed to speak even in parliament and assemblies, and even if you speak, then there is no response from the government. That is the general attitude of the governments here in India. So you think that you're in your parliament and in assembly, you have a situation where if you raise questions, they are answered in a proper way.
I think that we are in a better position, but the answers that I get don't always satisfy me. But I think if you're in politics, you have to be in a good condition. It's like hiking a very high mountain. So it's not like we say just a short run. And then it's our task and our responsibility to work on it. Can be with media, can be with other partners, with other platforms, and to ask again. And sometimes, even if we don't get the answer we want to have in detail, we could observe, or we can observe, that sometimes the measures, the decision are different. No, they would not say, yes, you're right, we have to change this. But finally, sometimes you change some things in, let's say, always putting the finger on the same situation, on the same question.
This is a very slow process and hard process. Anyway,
Yes,
my
it is.
last two questions.
Yes, it is.
My last two questions. That why you see the rise of the rightist forces all over the world. What is the reason behind it, according to your understanding or analysis? The second thing is that how to combat it, because means all the left forces or the socialist forces, they are trying to stop the onslaught of the rightist or fundamentalist forces all over the world. Uh, so, what is the way out?
Well, I don't know if an Austrian I'm really in the position of giving wise answers. My conviction is I'm a convinced anti-fascist, and I think we also, especially as Austrians, with the past we have with the Nazi regime, it is our duty to have a policy of remembering these times. But I'm convinced we don't win elections, we don't win these votes that are already now with the extreme right. We see in Austria and also in many European countries that in the cities, progressive forces have much better possibilities than in the countryside. And I'm convinced that this has to do with decreasing infrastructure in almost all the countries in the countryside. Because if you have the capitalist way, it's only the only way of offering some services makes sense for you where many people live, then you have a lacking infrastructure in the countryside. And some people feel set apart, feel that they do not have the same opportunities. The lack of infrastructure also means that young people, go to the cities and don't want to go back because they have better opportunities of childcare facilities, of education opportunities in the city. And I think we have to have a concept, we have to have answers for these challenges. We have to give answers in the basic concerns that everyone has about housing, about will I get a pension when I will retire, about a social system that can be financed sustainably. And for me, this is the way of showing the people that we will give the better answers of trying to win voters back.
Thank you very much. I fully agree with your suggestion, and this suggestion you gave in Jaipur in Gandhi Center also. And you said that if you want to really face or combat the rightist forces, then you have to give solutions of the problems which the common people, the general people, are
Yes.
facing. And if you give them the alternatives, then people will definitely, see towards you and may support you. And like you said, that Joran has come back, but similarly in New York as a mayor. So similar thing is happening all over the US and America, that now the left forces or the social democratic or democratic socialist forces, they are coming back to power and they are getting stronger again. So thank you very much, Karin Scheele, for sparing your valuable time with the Bahujan Samvad YouTube channel. Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting.
This was Karin Scheele, and she shared with us her life from the early childhood of then becoming the UC Secretariat member, and then she became the member of parliament for 10 years, and then in assembly for 15 years. So this is how a young socialist can develop as a sort of powerful, influential leader. So becoming of a socialist leader through IUSY, through socialist youth, you have seen, or you could listen to whatever Karin Scheele has said. So thank you very much for watching us, and please share it so that the people know something about Austria and the European Union, European Parliament, and the about Karin Scheele's life and times. Thank you very much.